I'm so excited to have Josh Freeman, Field Chief Technology Officer of the Enterprise Central Division at Dell Technologies. Take that in, everyone. Josh, we're so glad you're here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
I've been in the industry for 25 years, I think. Been around the world, it seems. I focus on working with our enterprise customers in the central U.S. on multi-cloud strategies, AI strategy, edge, dev experience, and help our sales teams kind of make sure that we're meeting customer needs there. So it's a pretty cool role.
Sounds like you're a superstar.
It can be a thankless job, but it's really me making sure I have the customer's needs. So I put my customer hat on because I've been on the customer side before.
Okay.
As I'm working with our account teams to make sure that we get it right and we're focusing on the right things.
So when you think AI, what comes to mind?
It's probably going to be a little bit more technical. When I think AI, I think machines using algorithms to solve problems. You know, they get better.
Simple.
It's a tool. You know, a lot of people think it's going to take over jobs and things of that nature. I see it more as a tool to make us more efficient. And we see that across the board, you know, in enterprise spaces as we apply use cases.
Okay.
It's all about efficiency, at least with the big boom that we currently have had in AI.
You've been in this for a while.
Mm-hmm.
In the big boom, is it fair to say that was November 2023?
Yeah, when ChatGPT released their GA version of OpenAI's ChatGPT version, that's when everything kind of blew up.
But you've been in it for a while. Like you already...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So machine learning, algorithms, robotic process automation, those things have been around. Computer vision, you know, solving problems in healthcare, you know, from a surgery room perspective.
Give us an example.
So now we can automate the surgery process. So we can put cameras inside of surgery rooms and they can tell when a patient gets rolled in. They start paging all the appropriate doctors. It can keep track of all of the utensils being used during a surgery, tied to an inventory system. It can order as the surgery is going on. It's a big use case, but that's been around. Now with generative AI, it's more about the interface. So it's creating us a better interface to use technology.
Before we started recording, you were telling us a little bit about how in your role, you kind of assist enterprise clients with AI integrations. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
I was focusing on generative AI integrations, and that starts right now with data, but governance. So think about all the use cases that can pop up from an enterprise perspective. You have to figure out if there's business value to it, because really AI is about changing business process to become more valuable.
I like that.
So if you're not doing that, you're just spending a lot of money for no reason. So it's about governance, making sure you have the right use cases aligned with the feasibility of the data underneath. So you focus on the right stuff, then you make sure your data is clean and available. You know, think about all the data silos that companies have, you know, maybe in a remote location or, you know, in different systems inside of their data center or in the hyperscalers like Microsoft or AWS. You got to present all of that in one layer to an AI use case to make it effective.
That sounds intricate. If you have all of this data everywhere, structured, unstructured, is that a normal challenge or obstacle for these Fortune 500 companies?
It is probably the majority of the issues that a chief data officer might have implementing AI are data related.
Okay, give us the top three that you run into as the CTO.
Well, it's data availability, meaning I might have it scattered
Okay.
So where is it? And then cleaning it
Like
to make
scrubbing
sure
the
it's
data, like
yeah,
duplicates.
making sure the data is right for the right use case. Your data can actually be too good, meaning you get false positives from an AI use case. So you have to make sure you understand what I'm trying to accomplish from a business perspective, what value it's going to provide, and make sure that my data sets align
Are
to
achieving
that
that.
process. And then you have to know what AI system you're implementing, so what framework you have to implement in order to accomplish the task.
And I'm wondering, is that AWS, Microsoft
Well, those are
framework?
providers.
Yeah,
I
talk
would
to us about
say
that.
it's more about, do I need a computer vision
Okay.
framework to accomplish the task? Like if I'm checking bags in an airport loading onto a plane.
Or like predictive
Yeah, or
analytics.
predictive analytics to try to forecast something. You have to understand what you're getting after, what the value should really look like, so you know if you're on or off. And we haven't really approached in the industry AI just running the next option. There's typically been a human in the loop.
It's reassuring because I think a lot of, at least prior listeners, one of their main concerns or fears as business owners, business leaders is, hey, am I going to be replaced?
Yeah, I think it's more about efficiency.
Love that.
When I see developers using something like Copilot, I think senior developers are just more efficient because they know how to use the tools
Mhm.
to their advantage. And I also think that it helps junior developers become a senior quicker because they can see the code, and it's more about prompting and using the tool to develop the code and then analyzing it and fine tuning it. But the more we use something like that, the more efficient it's going to be. So
That's
we're
operating
starting to
costs.
see more. Yeah. So you reduce operating costs, you can
Increase
turn
the quality.
code faster, which means we're going to see updates to software products that we use quicker. I think that's what we're going to see in the industry.
What are most enterprise clients looking for from AI? Or are they kind of just, do they kind of come to you and say, I know that AI is a thing. What can it do?
You get a little bit of both, right? Because some enterprises just say we need to do AI to keep up.
Mhm.
And those are the companies that I would suggest really need to understand their use cases and governance around what they're trying to focus on. But it's all about bringing in the right platforms to solve the problems. So there's business problems, there's data, there's a lot of software in between. I don't know, 1,500 AI software vendors, and more just keep adding almost weekly, it seems
Yep.
like.
Mhm. So
So you have to understand in that sea of optionality what you really need to focus on. And so a lot of companies understand what they want to get after because they understand their business model. They might be struggling. That's where you have to really focus on data. Like, why am I not taking ground if they have? But we've also done a lot in the industry. We've seen a lot of cool examples of what can happen when you apply technology and AI appropriately. You get better outcomes, if you will. I even saw a a video of a new earpiece with AI in it that you can, in real time, using your voice, adjust background noise and tell it to, like, if there's somebody across the table at dinner, you can tell it to increase the volume of their conversation inside of your ear so you can really narrow down what you want to listen to.
I need shares in that because boomers are going to love it.
And I almost feel like I might need it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Coffee shops, loud when you're having a conversation,
Yeah.
distracted, music. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we work with enterprises in our experience. You have the CMO, CEO, CIO, CTO all around a table.
Hmm.
We're talking big numbers, big investments.
Oh, yeah.
Do you see a challenge with buy-in from everyone at that table, or is it, hey, we're trusting you blindly? Is everyone on the same page? What does that decision look like when you're implementing a lot of these things that maybe not everyone around the table fully understands?
I think you just have to narrow the use case.
Mm.
So if you're even doing 20 projects, I think that's too much.
What would you suggest?
At least in the beginning, right? A handful, maybe even something that can drive productivity across multiple areas of the business, because then you're going to see the most value. But if you focus on a handful, like 5 or less use cases to get started, you're going to be effective, and then you can scale the solution or add more data to the AI use case to get at something different. We see a lot of at least generative AI today in customer service, knowledge management, things of that nature
Chat,
that are, chat,
support.
that are easy use cases, in my opinion. Then you just have to focus on, a lot of companies start with hyperscalers because it's easy to deploy. You only deploy what you need to drive the use case to see if you should spend more time on it. We see companies from a governance perspective, as it scales, you really want to gain greater control of the data, because you also need to add your IP to the model in order to get the answers more accurate for your business. So we see, which is where Dell is, really focused on
That
driving,
crossroads.
driving the storage, the entire stack to a data center model, so you can wrap that security layer around all of your IP data.
So you've been well aware of AI before the
Mhm.
ChatGPT
Absolutely.
stuff happened. What over the years has really excited you in terms of innovations in AI that you've witnessed over your awareness of AI kind of span?
The computer vision use cases seem to amaze me. I know early on, the Australian government worked with a drone technology to scan the beaches for sharks so that it could warn swimmers and things of that nature. So you just think about how accurate a camera can be and how we can analyze images, even x-rays, to make, reading, a radiologist much more efficient reading x-rays. That the computer vision layer seems to be the most impressive outside of creating content. I mean, I will say, this last wave of generative AI we haven't had before, because we're actually creating, content, pictures, videos, things of that nature using AI. That's going to be a game changer. I think it creates a better interface. So you can bring people like marketing resources to the table, and they can interact with technology with natural language
Mhm.
to develop something, which is not something we've had in the past. You've had to know how to code. So I think it's going to open up a much more creative implementation of technology across the board.
I love that you reference that it's a tool. Um, where do you think, because again, I do think it's going to be disruptive in great ways, and make people adapt and evolve. You mentioned in like a surgery room, right? Being able to have multiple cameras. You have to go to school to be, a surgeon for a lot of years.
Absolutely.
Do you think that, and I'm just going to use the hospital example for instance, do you see not only maybe some efficiencies there, but also efficiencies in schooling where, you, or possibly like maybe you go longer, but your income may adjust based on this technology? Where do you see that disruption?
I think it's going to be across the board, because you can use like digital twin models to train, maybe in school, so you can replicate diseases, things of that nature, using real data as a digital twin. So we see that in healthcare being a good use case as well. But if you go back to the efficiency, you might get paid more because you're more efficient, more productive from a healthcare perspective. Like a surgeon, they make money in surgery. So if their surgery
If they have more.
turnover is
Yeah.
quicker, they would make more. I definitely think that a surgeon that can use AI will replace a surgeon that doesn't
hmm
in the future, but AI will not replace the surgeon.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
And that's all right too. I think, you think of how many hours they put in that
Yeah.
technology. If you can get more reps and cut down on, time that you're in school or education
Absolutely.
possibly, um, I, I'm just, I marvel at that.
Yeah. Or just in the automotive industry,
Ah,
to get to a level 5 autonomy for driving a car, you have to have millions of miles logged
yep.
to train the model. You can't do that on the road. So AI will definitely help us in that aspect as well.
You mentioned one of the biggest challenges just in integrating AI being just getting your data
hmm
ready for it. But beyond that, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges that AI integrations pose for companies on the enterprise level, say, that they should be aware of going in so that they can be prepared for using AI most effectively?
Training them how to use what's available from an AI perspective. I mean, the data scientists understand the landscape. I think they struggle a little bit because of data availability. They don't have everything they need. I'm not saying that happens every time,
hmm
but you have you have to understand what data elements you need to change business process. You also need to train people on using the new business process. I think that's a big that's a big gap that we see. So data, resource training, or just resources that understand how to use the tools.
Just the
And then
education gap in
exactly. Yeah.
overall education.
And then just the vast amount of tools out there. So you have to narrow down, since there are so many options and to solve different things, you really need to narrow down on a platform that can help you with multiple use cases and then scale from there. So I think you try to make big statements around new technology. Typically, cloud was one of them as well. We're going to move to cloud and save a bunch of money. That almost never happens. You have to understand how to get your hands around the technology first and keep your eye on the business process always.
I feel like you come at it from both ends. You have that technology sense and the integration, as well as, okay, what's the business goal here? What's the objective behind
Absolutely.
why they're implementing it and why they're making this decision? So, do you think that there's a gap in the current marketplace of people like you that, not obviously on a Fortune 500 level, but just in general, that can consult these business owners around what technology to use, how to get their data ready and available? Or are you seeing that there's people out there that are very much helping
I think
companies
there are
do
a lot
this?
of opinions, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I think there are a lot of people that um, understand the technology.
So understanding the business.
Yeah, I feel like we typically, IT application has always been a problem. Ever since I've been in the industry, it's, because it's its own language. I think we're converging a little bit more today, but it's always been, um, how do we apply the technology to the business to make it more efficient? And that translation is sometimes very difficult. So I think the better we get at translating what we're trying to drive or what we're trying to accomplish to the technology, it makes it easier. That I know a lot of people will cringe when I say this, but the technology is the easy part.
I think about enterprises and how many people there are. Like, you just
Yeah.
think about Dell, and it just feels like you're moving the Titanic when you're making changes. And so that's why, I look at, maybe there's new markets in consultants like
hmm
you that understand, a wide variety of IT technology, as well as the business side of it, that can help bridge the gap between
Absolutely.
where businesses are right now and then everything that's out there. Because the minute you start talking, in my experience, um, I mean, to CEOs or even like CTOs, and you think
Hmm.
about the implementation process, it's like, well, who do we, even if I have somebody that's educated, are they going to, like, do I need to hire somebody to do this? Like, who is actually doing the practical implementation of changing processes and behaviors in an organization that's large?
And that's where the education gap is, I think,
Okay.
for the business side of the house.
Yeah.
So the more educated they are about the technology and what it can provide you, the better we are going to be at applying it to the business side of the house. I think we have a lot of the technologists that are trying to solve problems, trying to merge data, trying to implement platforms. That's a lot of churn if you don't know how to apply it. So I would absolutely say start smaller than you think you should in the beginning, because then you'll get your legs underneath of you in implementing something and taking ground, seeing the incremental efficiency gain, and then you can scale it.
If I'm Stellantis, right,
Hmm.
and I want to implement this, you're saying possibly instead of rolling it out, I do beta tests almost to maybe certain areas, geography or
Absolutely.
dealerships. So start small and then start with one use case like conversational computing, computer vision use case, not
Yes.
five different ones.
Yes. And so step back and think about what problems you have in the business.
Mhm.
Maybe it's maintenance. Then you can apply a maintenance use case. You can apply on the marketing side or product side how you can increase the user experience from a conversational driving experience, maybe. So if you focus on the customer and then focus on your business problems, that's going to give you like a business value matrix
Mhm.
that then you can apply feasibility to. How feasible it is to solve the problem,
How
how
long?
how long, yeah, how much data do I need? How can I solve it with an architecture that doesn't require a technology that might take me a year to get?
When you think about the enterprises that you work with, what does a typical first investment look like? And I know that that can be a wide range. And then also that first investment, what's the typical time frame that you're aiming to solve that problem?
We've worked with some NVIDIA stacks, and because of the popularity and how it blew up, pipeline can be a problem with the higher end chips. But we also have RAG architect retrieval augmented generation architectures that you don't need so many high end GPUs to accomplish the task, for instance.
Okay.
So you can bring in a wide architecture
Sure.
in the data center to get it done. Or if you're just creating like an innovation model to figure out, you can do that. If you have a hyperscaler relationship, you can do that using services off the shelf to figure out it's you're not going to have as accurate results because it's not all of your IP data, but you can figure out if it's worth spending more time on. So I would say you need to focus on the software stack because that's going to help you solve the problems inside of your business, and then you really want to right size the AI investment up front to what you're trying to solve. Although we do have some partners that are creating AI services, they, hundreds of servers with GPUs in it, and they're trying to launch a very large AI service.
What does that typically cost?
That can cost in the range of billions if you want to build it large enough. Which is why you see the Chat GPT models, Gemini, I
Mhm.
think XAI. the- They're all competing for the largest model that's just funneling all the data into a very large compute.
Just general broad, because I think the question I'm trying to get at is, you have small businesses as well as, medium sized, then you have,
Hmm.
open source AI, right? Billions.
Yes.
Would you say, let's say, a logistics company nationwide, 100 million in revenue, what typically are they investing in kind of like that first couple years within their AI implementation?
Yeah,
What's a range?
I would say in the millions to tens of millions, depending on the use case. They already have the data. It's just a matter of how to put maybe a virtual layer
Mhm.
over your data to present that to an AI use case. And then it's the server architecture with the GPUs in it that can crunch, do the
Okay.
number crunching for you, the software stack. Those you can bring in probably under 10 million
Okay.
somewhere to get started.
Your operating costs go down,
App,
hopefully,
yes,
efficiency, output out. So it's like, but that first initial investment,
is an investment. Yeah,
you're not
you
going to
have to
see that,
lay
right?
the groundwork in my opinion.
So when I think of kind of major tech companies and AI, each of them are really kind of hitting certain areas of innovation that they are, and like Google and OpenAI are both doing generative AI, but Google is also focusing on like, really honing in on search, generative
Yes.
experience and whatnot. For Dell, what would you identify as some of like the chief, like main areas of innovation when it comes to AI?
I would say it's the validated designs to drive efficiency to those AI stacks
Okay.
an enterprise needs. We have partnerships across the board, AMD, Nvidia, Intel. They have stacks, they have a validated architecture from a compute perspective that we make sure works with all of the popular AI platforms that you can bring to bear. So if you think about going from I have a use case, I need to implement technology, we have a stack that you can bring in that's been validated that can handle the workload. So it drives faster time to value. I think that's where at least we focused initially, and it's building the ecosystem. So we can help you by understanding your business problem and then bringing all the partners together that will make this a smooth implementation.
You're a little like a broker.
Yes, that's what it feels like in my conversations.
Okay.
Because you initially say, why Dell? Why wouldn't I talk to NVIDIA or something closer to the business? But we want to understand the very same business problems that you're trying to solve first,
Uh-huh.
because then that allows us to get to the right solution. And we have such a wide variety. Not everything is a nail for us. So if we understand the business problem, what you're trying to accomplish, we can get to the right solution. And we do this ourselves and
Ourselves
have
meaning
been.
Dell.
Dell.
Okay.
AI is in all of our products. It drives efficiencies, for workload placement, things of that nature. So we have our own data scientists that we've been working with. We have digital humans that we've created so we have the experience as well. So it's not just the products we deploy, the ecosystem that we've built. We also have our own experience so it's like a peer-to-peer conversation that we can have.
I love that you always kind of stem from, well, what's the business problem we're solving here? And then building off of that. What questions do you feel like CEOs or C suite execs should be asking themselves when it comes to figuring out what is the priority problem or challenge they're trying to solve? Or is that always then down to a revenue driven decision?
I don't think it's always down to a revenue decision,
Okay.
because I think every executive has a charter for the year, what they're trying to accomplish, whether it's market growth, whether it's, driving down OPEX costs or something of that nature. That's part of what we're trying to get done this year, or even in a 3 to 5 year plan. You just have to start with that. Start with what you're trying to accomplish and then move to the process. So it would be an estimated change in process that you need to make to meet your goal. And that keeps you balanced.
I guess I was thinking if you have everyone around the table and here I am, CMO, I want to implement this. Well, here's this use case. Now we have 5 or 6 different AI, use cases being implemented in 2025. And you're
Absolutely.
saying that's okay. Like that's enough or like,
It is enough.
okay.
Yeah.
So shouldn't prioritize. Okay.
Yeah. Because if you start even with 10 for a big enterprise,
Yeah.
even 50, 20 is too many
Okay.
upfront.
Yes. It
You can
seems like a
scale
lot.
that quickly, right? I think the faster you can iterate
Mhm.
and scale the problem, the better you're going to get at the backlog of use cases you create. But you want to start with the ones that are going to drive the most value.
We've mentioned some of the big problems when it comes to data integration with AI platforms. What are kind of the big solutions that enterprises should be aware of in terms of preparing their data?
I guess so. I'll have to start with a belief I have,
Mm-hmm.
and that's moving data is one of the most expensive operations you can do inside of an organization.
Oh, okay. That's
So
good to know.
moving it to something to then process it is hard and expensive.
Okay.
So you almost want to bring AI to your data at the end of the day. That's less expensive, less cumbersome. The data's already there and being created in a certain spot. So I think we talked about just the different data sets that are across the entire ecosystem that you might have. We've partnered with companies to create a virtual data layer. Starburst is our first partner in the space, and we've created a data query engine. So you virtualize the data, meaning it sits where it is, but you present it in a virtual layer. You can even process it locally. So if you have remote sites that have important data, like a manufacturing plant, that you might be making decisions from an AI engine at the plant, but you want a trend, we can query data locally to the plant and present it in a virtual layer and only send what you need across the network, which makes it more efficient. So I think data cleansing is also, a big problem, making sure that the data is right for your use case that you're trying to use it for. I think we have a partner, Able, AIBLE. They can help you with data validation, making sure that the data elements are what they should be for the use case. So I think those are examples of solutions that are probably a layer we don't already have in the enterprise. We store the data. We've even moved data around, from hyperscaler back or, out to colos, which is like an adjacent architecture. I think that will help us. The virtual layers, keeping data where it's at, understanding it, really having a good understanding of the metadata behind all the data elements in your ecosystem. That's where to start with the data side of the house.
How often do they not know? Like, is it pretty common?
They know the problem exists.
Okay.
No matter who I talk to, the data
Cleanliness
leaders
is
cleanliness
dirty.
is a problem. Where the data is and how to present the different types of data. I think we talked unstructured. Depending on the business, and it kind of varies. A lot of businesses create a lot of unstructured data, and then it's just a matter of how do you present it to your AI use cases to gain, maybe operational efficiency.
The problem you're trying to solve.
Correct.
So, C-suite execs, enterprise, trying to obviously implement this and learn about this technology. What resources or publications or online forums do you go to keep up with the latest and greatest?
We just had an internal instant message session about what sources.
Yeah.
So I subscribe to a lot of the email lists
Okay.
The automated geek AI, superhuman AI. I think they give you the trends and what's happening that you can then go dig into. I think that's good from a trending perspective. And then you have obviously the big consultants that are helping enterprise customers. They do the market research just like we do to understand technology, trajectory, understanding what's going on, how to apply it, how it interacts with other technology sectors. You think multi-cloud being one. How do you move your data? How do you get your data in the right spot for the right use case with the tool that you're using? I think is a big area.
But if I'm a CEO and I have an hour a week to dedicate to this, where am I going?
I would,
Or are you like spend 5?
yeah, I would look at all the email lists over coffee in the morning.
I like that.
Just to stay updated. And then knowing like what customer conversations I'm going to have, I know how to apply it. Or just knowing what I'm trying to accomplish for the week. It can help me keep up with the trends since there's so much going on.
And it's evolving so quickly.
It is. You have new use cases, new companies pop up every week.
So, Josh, thank you so much for coming on the Go AI podcast. I've learned a lot. I'm excited to re-listen to this so I can digest this. You clearly just have so much experience and intelligence around this subject. So I could talk to you all day long. I'm sure Connor feels the same way. What words of advice would you leave our listeners, knowing obviously from an enterprise standpoint, if they are looking to implement this within their organization?
Know the business outcome you're trying to drive. Understand that you're doing it to change the business, not for the technology itself. Understand there's going to be data challenges and you need to bring AI to your data. I think that's probably the easiest elevator pitch I could give you on how to start.
I love it. It's your own commercial.
Right.
So, Josh, where do people find you? If they want to learn more, ask you questions, work with you, where do they go to find you?
Well, LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
That's probably
Just
the best
Google
place.
your name.
Yes.
Okay. Josh Freeman.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have an email?
I do. josh.f@dell.com.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.